This is the Comedy Kiosk, podcast by Monday and Munoz. Please welcome Monday and Munoz.
Hello and welcome to the Comedy Kiosk, a podcast on which we discuss news, opinions, and ideas about comedy. My name is Igor Monday. With me
is David Munoz.
And today we are starting a topic called What's My Style? What's my style? Style.
Yay!
So what is my style? What is this topic? David, you want to intro us into the episode?
Yeah, because I was thinking about, because with the whole new scene in Alicante and things, and I'm sure you've got the same thing in Zagreb or whatever, is like, it started getting me thinking of when I started and people trying to find their style of comedy and how you might try different things along the way. And eventually also the progression from where you started to where you ended. Is it the same? Have you just refined it, or have you kind of changed it? Have you gotten better at certain things and at others you're not as good? So, and also the different styles of comedy that you can try. Because I think that's kind of the fun thing to do at the beginning is to give anything a shot, especially if you have a good open mic that allows you to do whatever you want, in which we had, because it was very nascent and new and all the rest. And it's, it gives us that opportunity, not like trying to get a spot in an established place in the middle of London or New York or whatever, who are like, hey, if you're not funny in the first, if you're not funny for 3 minutes straight, then you get the fuck off the stage and you never come back. We were like, hey, no, please come back because we need more comedians. So, and that's the thing I keep telling my guys as well, is like my comedians, because for example, I have this one guy, he likes to do more weirdy abstract sort of stuff, but he knows it doesn't get that many laughs, but it tickles his funny bone and he enjoys it. But he can also do the more straightforward, typical jokey jokes that do get the good laughs. And I've seen him do both. And when he comes off after doing the jokey joke ones, he's like, yeah, but I'm like, dude, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to, you can go ahead and do that weird abstract shit. I don't care really. Like, I don't mind. Like, just do it, because other people do different styles. And I think it's kind of cool to see the different styles in one show, not just everyone doing the same sort of thing. And also that kind of now reminds me of when we first started, when you guys would we discuss about, like, because I couldn't speak Russian, but you guys would tell me that the Russian comedians were all pretty much at that point kind of all cut and paste carbon copies of each other, compared to now where the new comedians have come out with newer, more styles, like what's his name, Shebakov and things like that, who they started coming out with these kind of not so carbon copy styles of other comedians in the region.
I think when it comes to like commercial level, like comedy, it's always more homogenous, because it's kind of, you want to be like the others because you don't want to look like stick out in any way and maybe, break the mold or whatever. But when it comes to then like an indie scene, it's usually more diverse. Here, the same thing. If I look at like Croatian comedy, like, the commercial, the comedy that sells, the comedy that, people buy tickets to see, it's all the same. There is no, like a one-liner. There is no like black humor. There is no deadpan. There is no music. It's just usually a man, sometimes a woman with a microphone telling jokes. That's it. There's not a lot of diversity in the sense of, different styles and whatever. But then, of course, if you go to like a city like Berlin, and you go to like a random open mic on Monday, you'll see everything. Like, you'll see all different kind of styles and so on, because first of all, it allows you to do that because it has a lot of opportunities to like try different mics and try different things. But also it's good to be different, because I think in like some, like here in the Balkans, it's always been like, and I think it always be like a unsaid rule that it's bad to be different, but like in some places it's good to be different. So that's why I think people...
Do you think that could be like a post-communist kind of like a side effect sort of thing? Like people are just like, no, you don't stick out. Because when you said like, when you get to a certain level, you don't want to stick out. Now, to kind of counter that though, some people would say, well, that's how you make it big, is by standing out. So for example, the story of Steve Martin. Now, most people know Steve Martin as an actor, right? And maybe a little bit of a writer as well. He's done some novels and apparently they're quite good, but mainly as an actor, a comedic actor, and he has a certain vibe and things. But in reality, he actually was a stand-up comedian in the 70s. And he was huge. At one point, he was massive. People kind of forget that because he left and he never went back, and he just cut it, dropped off. But the point is, if you actually listen to him in interviews and things, and if you go watch his masterclass on the masterclass series thing, he actually says that he was a normal comedian like everyone else. Like, he was dressed like all the others, which in the 60s, 70s was to dress in paisley and shit like that. Like, kind of slightly hippie-ish, longish hair, played his band and did political stuff and blah, blah, blah. He did his humor. And he did that for 10 years, right? He developed his persona for 10 whole years like a normal comedian. And he had it good. But then he just switched it. He just got sick and tired of it. He was bored. And he did as he put it, he kind of found the trick was that you do the exact opposite of what everyone else is doing. So all of a sudden he started doing crazy, zany, kind of whimsical stuff. He wore a white suit, so he kind of like a Colonel Sanders suit. And he started getting like, I'm a crazy guy, and doing wacky, weird things. And it was huge. And people loved it because it was different. And as he put it, he was contrasting to what was happening. So at the time, the Vietnam War and things like that, he contrasted it by because people want that escape. They just want to get away from that shit. And they don't want to hear a comedian get up there and do serious things and criticize the government. They're like, we're fucking sick and tired of that shit. So he kind of made an antithesis to that. So he stood out. So that's kind of an opposite point of view, where Steve Martin's advice was, whatever's happening, whatever's the scene, flip it. Do the opposite. Do the opposite, and you'll be noticed.
Well, I think it's probably true, but being noticed does not mean being just being different or unique does not make you good. So
exactly, and that was his step 2: be undeniably funny.
So,
he
yeah.
said that. He goes, "You still got to be funny, though."
It's what happened with Jim Carrey. He was absolutely different. Like, he was doing, faces and voices and characters, and Robin Williams, and Rowan Atkinson, and, all these kind of late 80s, early 90s comedians who were not just a guy in a red jacket telling jokes. Even that was actually different, like Eddie Murphy's, style and so on. Yeah, at the time. So
everything comes in waves, cycles, whatever.
Yeah. So, but then I think that it was good, but also those were once in a lifetime talents. I don't think anyone can pull off Jim Carrey except Jim Carrey. Like, this whole shtick of
I disagree.
So I think today, especially today, once I just stumbled upon an article a few hours ago that since autumn 2023. More than 150 stand-up specials were released over a few streaming services. So we're talking Netflix, Amazon, whatever, over 150 specials. So, ain't nobody got time for that. So, and it used to be, I don't know, one a year with in the 80s or whatever, maybe even less. I don't know, what was the frequency of those VHS days. So that's why, people were...
there'd probably be a few a year, but it wouldn't be as saturated, that's for sure. It's probably 1 or 2 a month, maybe.
Okay.
Or 1 a month,
so,
maybe.
Yeah, fine. But still, so I think then you had more kind of space to actually experiment, because nowadays there is so much competition and content that I think, you can go down the route of just being different and maybe you stick out, but that can also be very risky, because maybe you then I think today to really be different, you have to be so much better than others. And
but that's just it. It's like you said, I'm not saying you can't be funny. You have to be funny, obviously, but to stand out, because like you said, it's saturated. It's so ubiquitous. So many specials are coming out. If everyone's doing the same style, then you don't stand out. You just blend in, and people just go, yeah, that's another one, and that's cool. But you got to have something undeniably different and good. Obviously, still be good at it. But you said Jim Carrey was unique. He was Jerry Lewis. He was the new Jerry Lewis. Even he said he took inspiration from Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis was that style of comedian. I think things fluctuate, because when Steve Martin, when he left stand-up comedy, it was for that exact same reason. So many others started imitating his style, which he was fine with, but they were copying, they were doing that whimsical, wacky humor, and he was like, I was no longer different. I was no longer undeniably different. Now there was a bunch of others, so he cut it before he just disappeared. He kind of, it's like Oasis leaving Britpop, at their peak sort of thing. It stopped them from meandering to nothingness, so that now 15 years later, oh, what a coinkydink, what a perfect number, the two brothers have somehow mended their ways. Oh my lord, they haven't had a Christmas dinner together until now. How remarkable. Sure. Anyway, but the thing is, now people are saying that they're going to make more money on this tour than they did in their entirety in the 90s at their peak. They're going to make more money from this tour. People are already rebuying their records. Spotify off the charts. I got to work and my colleague, he had put on, I thought he'd put on Oasis because it was just one Oasis track after another. So I'm like, oh yeah, you've put on Oasis because of the reunion. He was like, no, I actually just put on most listened tracks in the UK. And right now, the top 10 to 20 tracks are all Oasis songs because everyone's re-listening. The record stores are selling out of Oasis albums. And this is even before the freaking tour has started. They are going to make bank because they left at a peak and now they're coming back when the timing is sort of right for them, right? They've planned it. Come on, a bit. Even if the brothers maybe have actually, had issues, I don't think it was as big as it seems, and I think they were kind of helping milk it a little bit. But anyway, the point is when it comes to stand-up, though, it's about these cycles. There's that period of time when everyone is doing deadpan. Then if everyone's doing deadpan, then switch it up and you do, animated. If everyone's doing animated, then maybe that's the time you want to do maybe sarcastic, angry guy or something like that, or angry person, or, I think that's kind of the point that Steve Martin was making, being funny, but just seeing where something different can be, so you can be noticed and people can then go, oh, you are funny. Because if you look at Steve Martin now, he does do tours with Martin Short. Him and Marty, they get together and they've done these, they were huge. They were awesome too. I saw snippets of it. But his humor is not the same at all. It's completely different. He's now doing sarcastic old man. And they're kind of like a bickering couple and they're constantly ribbing on each other about how shit the other person is and stuff like that. So it's half roasting. It's basically them roasting each other and taking jibes and things like that, like frenemies. They're playing up this frenemy angle, we're friends, but God, we just despise each other and we think the other one is a talentless hack compared to me, sort of arrogant, douchey sort of thing.
We should do that.
And it's completely, but it's completely different to his style in the 70s. You know what I mean? And this is what I'm trying to say about the style. When you're trying to find your style, my question is, Igor, what is your style?
First of all, let me first go back a moment and talk about the as you said, differences. If everyone's doing one, you do the other, and just be different. But I really think that for that, you just you can be different once you're good, once you're great. Once you're I think first to be different than others, you have to be better than others, because otherwise it's just going to be cringe and forced and it's not going to work. So, and there are still comedians that are very different. There is, I don't know, James Acaster, who's very different, very different than other comedians.
But he reminds me of Emo Phillips, that awkward guy.
Yeah, but that,
the dork.
Kind of, but I think that, okay, Emo Phillips is very, I would say, niche, but James made it kind of commercially acceptable, to be like that, he's
I think he's a softened version.
Maybe more kind of, generally accepted version of that, let's say. Yeah. But
there are comedians like Maria Bamford. She's also got that awkward girl who's sort of, a weirdo, a bit of a weirdo sort of kind of angle that she puts on it. She's strange, she's awkward, she's the girl who paints unicorns and then paints them being shot in the head, weird stuff. That's so Emo Phillips, Maria Bamford, Acaster, all these people there. There is a style though. That is a style, and in waves, like they all came out at different times,
Yeah,
because for that they're kind of the niche one for that generation or something maybe.
Yeah, and I think that especially if we talk about like British scene, there are more of these like characters and different, like because the American scene is also very homogenous, and there are few people like I don't know who is kind of Netflix big and doing something different. Like Dimitri Martin is doing one-liners. I don't know, like Bo Burnham is doing musical, and that's it. And the rest is still just a person with a microphone. Like just a kind of pure stand-up. So I mean, I'm talking about like the top 5
Bill
or
Burr
something.
and Jim Gaffigan. You're just a guy with a microphone.
Yeah, well, I mean, also and whatever, like Eliza and Whitney Cummings and like all the. I'm not saying just a guy. I'm saying like but it's a person with a microphone telling jokes. It doesn't have a different format, or it doesn't deviate from the norm or from like this kind of well-known structure of stand-up.
Yeah.
Where like one Dimitri Martin, I don't know, like 15 years ago, he had this show on TV even where he would be doing like such like weird stuff, like and musical stuff and sketches, and with his little like not little like a big kind of notepad kind of thing where he would be like doing the visual gags and whatever. And yeah, but these guys are really like the masters of their craft. I would say that if we talk about like musical comedy. Bo Burnham is the best. If we're talking about like one-liners and this like visual gags and whatever, Dimitri Martin is the best. If we're talking about like this kind of weird, awkward character guy comedy, James Acaster, like they are, like they're not just a mid-tier guy trying something weird. They're like what they chose to do, they're fucking nailing it.
Yeah, but the thing is, maybe they did start at that awkward part. I mean, at some point you got to start trying it out. I don't know about if you need to wait until you're a great comedian to start a new style, because, well, you can develop into it. I mean, I'm sure Bo Burnham, I think he always liked music. I think he was always into music, and he just started with some funny little things, and maybe he wasn't that good at it. Maybe his first few jokey songs were kind of shitty. But I don't know if was he ever like just a straight stand-up sort of stuff, or did he automatically already start with this style?
I mean, he started with music, and then he did like more of just stand-up when he did like his first tour around the unis or whatever. But it was still like he would do like a 10-15 minute stand-up bit, but then a song and whatever. He was never like, he doesn't have, I think, like an hour of stand-up or something. No, it was always like, but yeah, so the same. And now if you say that like, now they're great, but not all, it doesn't mean that they were always great. It's just like they stuck with this and they kind of pushed through. That's probably very much true. And I remember like when I was starting, now to get back to your question, when I was starting, I really wanted to do one-liners. So not like my first set. My first set was just like, hey, I'm a foreigner and I live here and I don't know how things work, like the standard kind of shit. And that was my first like 5 sets, whatever. But then when I got kind of comfortable enough and understood, like how to hold a microphone, how to move on the, like just basics, I was like, okay, I want to do one-liners. I really wanted to just like write puns. And I always admired such comics, like Jimmy Carr used to be good back then. That was like a big kind of influence. Dimitri Martin, I always loved, like for the last 20 years, I think. And then other guys as well, like people like Tim Vine or I don't know, like who else was. So like people that just do one-liners, and it was like a special type of magic to me, like to in one sentence to pack like a setup, twist, and punchline, So I wanted to do that, and I tried that like several sets, and it didn't go well because I think like to do puns, to do like one-liners, to do these kind of like dad jokes, you really have to be in like a native speaking country, because it's all about wordplay, it's all about like idioms, it's all about like high level of like the language, which you cannot achieve in like in 2014 Moscow, where I was trying to do it. That would never fly. So I just reverted back to just doing like general normal standard stand-up. But then last few years, I did it a couple of times there as well, and we talked about it already. I'm not sure on air or off air, but I kind of developed this persona of like a awkward open micer, where I go with like a list of jokes I want to do. And I like kind of ask the audience, can I please try these jokes with you? Like, be patient with me, this and that. And I try the...
I remember that. Yeah. I remember that shtick.
So, yeah, I try the jokes, and it's always... And I try to mix in one-liners in that set, usually, because that works as that kind of, like, deadpan, awkward persona, I think. And then I also do some jokes that are not very, like, long or convoluted or, like, storytelly, but more like boom, joke. So I do have this like alternate persona kind of thing that I bring up, I don't know, like 3 times a year. And it also has to be like a room for that. It has to be it has to be mostly people who have not seen me before, because otherwise they would know that, I'm not a awkward open micer kind of character. Yeah. Right. And again, it also works better. Like I did it in that.
Doesn't work if you're doing a Netflix special.
Yeah.
If you ever do a Netflix special, it's just not going to work.
After that, it's not, unless I dress up as a different character. I don't know. Yeah, and I did it in Edinburgh like both years a few times, and it went over really well because, again, I think in the UK people are more open to like different, variations of comedy and so on styles than here, for example, because we do like, again, I look at my kind of comedians, and we now have, I don't know, like 15 regulars, let's say, rotating comics, plus like a few
sounds great,
like external ones that show up here and there. And it's all the same. It's all just people telling jokes, except one guy, which is like kind of deadpan, dark humor. And it never works. Like it works to an extent, like, but it mostly gets, rather than like laughs and stuff. But
it's like an Anthony Jeselnik sort of style?
No, it's more like, I don't know, like a wannabe Jimmy Carr style. It's like dark kind of, I don't know, pedophilia and rape and whatever jokes, like,
right. So shock value included with but without the suave what is it, Bateman from American Psycho angle to it.
Yeah, so it's more like, it's not like Jimmy Carr, this kind of like posh, well-spoken, bubbly personality telling dark, dirty jokes. It's more like kind of in this kind of tone of voice, like, I beat my girlfriend yesterday. So this kind of stuff, like a more deadpan kind of. And I mean,
the classic "I beat my girlfriend." That's a surefire winner there.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're doing that style of comedy, if you're doing dark comedy, then you got to talk about dark stuff. You cannot be doing like dark comedy and being like, so. I made chicken breast yesterday. It's not, what's the point then? But kudos to the guy, because he's the only one trying something different. It's not really.
But that's what I mean. Like, he's starting, who knows, maybe in 20 years, he's going to have that nail. Like, he's going to be like the next Anthony Jeselnik or the next Jimmy Carr style, but he's found his own sort of, his own way of doing it, that, he maybe finds something, another little different thing to it, to add to it, that makes it his style, and all of a sudden people will be like, damn, how awesome is that? And other people try to copy him.
Maybe. I mean, he's pretty young, and he's like an open micer at this point. In like 10 years, who knows where he could come with that. And maybe he's going to open like this market to creations that like dark humor. I don't know, you know what I mean? Like, who knows? But but I'm just saying, like, I also appreciate that he's the different one, because in a lineup where we have like 8 comedians, and he shows up like once every 2-3 months. So in a lineup where we have 8 comedians, it's mostly like 8 same styles, not same comedians and perspectives and humor, but 8 same styles. You know what I mean? And I would really love it if someone would show up like, with a keyboard or a guitar, if someone would show up dressed as a clown or a turtle or a Frenchman or whatever, like people do, if someone would come and try one-liners, like, it's just try it, like maybe that's your thing. Not everyone is just for like standing there and telling jokes. But yeah, it's a risky thing to do, especially in like environments like here. So unlike the UK, unlike Berlin or somewhere, I think the worst thing you can do in Croatia is look stupid. That's like the, you know, the stigma of the worst thing you can do is look stupid. So people are afraid not to look stupid.
I think that would be, but that'd be kind of like a, you know, how we usually have like these showcase shows but themed ones, you know, like, you know, stories about relationships or roast battle or whatever. I think maybe character, that could be an interesting one. Like every comedian has to create a character and you have to do your jokes and things in the style of that character, whether you're a clown, a French dude or something like that. Like, you know, that, what's his name? Besson, no, what's his name? The one who's the Frenchy one who's really good, but he's not actually French. He's a British guy.
Marcel Lecomte.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, he's good. But that's what I mean. Like everyone has to create a persona, a character that is not just, oh, it's me, but with these bits dialed up to 11 and these bits. No. An actual proper character with a way of speaking, a way of dressing, blah, blah, blah. It's got to be different. And you do a show like that. Like give that show. I think that'd be a fun one because it'd be a different style. It would force us to do a different style. Another one I always wanted to try out, we never got around to it, was giving each other our bits and getting someone else to perform your stand-up to see how they would do it differently. Like make it their own sort of thing and see if there's anything that, you know, could inspire, or maybe by doing something else you go, oh, I see what you've done there, I see where the punchline works. But that would require actually working together a bit and stuff like that for the trade.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be fun for us, and that's maybe like a good kind of workshop exercise. I don't think that could be a show because why would someone be interested in a different comedian doing my material? Like they don't even know whose material. It was just
true.
You know, it's kind of like a internal, I think, exercise rather
workshop
than
activity,
like a show. But I think this idea of, because when I was in Paris and I met a comedian, Australian comedian who is like mostly based in Europe, in the UK and so on, and he was just finishing this famous clown school in Paris. I always forget what it's called, but
Gaultier,
something like that. And but he's like a stand-up. He doesn't plan on being a clown or whatever. Yeah. And he was like, yeah, but it's so useful. You know, like once you learn to like tell a story without saying a single word, once you learn how your body can be half of the punchline or half of the setup, your like facial expressions, your movement, your, you know, like everything just kind of, it's not even about just the physicality. It's about like charisma. It's about like confidence. It's like how much you can do without actually just writing jokes on a piece of paper, right? And he said like since I started and he was then finishing that school, my stand-up act improved like tenfold. And after that, like he did a full run at the Fringe. I met him like last year and so on. So and you can see the guy's really good. Like he's really good. I don't know like how much of that was that school or not, but so, you know, that means that just expanding into like a little bit different area already like elevates your current act. And like I'm not much for improv, like I never liked it and never approved of it, but I think also like stand-ups that do improv have an advantage of being a bit more theatrical, a bit more like, you know, relaxed as well. They're like ready to do like stuff on the spot and whatever. So again,
they're in the moment.
Yeah, and anything like,
I think they're quite in the moment.
If you do like theater on the side, if you do music, I think music is a great complement to comedy. I don't know like a single kind of cringe musical comedian. I mean, I'm not talking about like open micers. I'm talking about like that level where you know how to do it. But there were so many like really good ones, you know, like one of those two girls, like I always forget their names. One is tall and blonde, the other is short and like brunette, and they do like silly songs. They're like famous. They do this like act where one plays.
Are they British or are they like New Zealand?
No, they're American. One plays the keyboard, the other plays like a ukulele or whatever. But yeah, so
maybe it's a different girls.
Then the guys, they are Australian. What are they called? Like the
we've had quite a few from Australia. I remember, like for me, Doug Anthony All Stars was one that I loved. But later on, I think you're thinking, there's the Umbilical Brothers are more improv-y stuff. Well, more kind of theatrical sort of thing.
Yeah, but that's one of the greatest comedy shows I've ever watched. So you know, like
the Umbilical Brothers.
Yeah, that's so brilliant. Like it's so just.
Different style.
Like it's that's it, and that's why I think like that's what we were talking about when we talked about
with miming involved, clowning and miming.
Yeah, like all these like festivals and everything, I think are amazing to go to because you get exposed to such comedians.
Weird Little Guys. Was that them?
No.
Wasn't there a group of
I mean,
performers
I don't know, but
called We
that's
Little
not the one. Oh man, I'll find it because
Yeah.
I know you know them and I know them as well. And today it seems like one of those days where I cannot remember any of the names.
Same here. I'm having troubles with that. It's just really bugging me.
Flight of the Conchords.
Oh, no, they're New Zealand.
they're
not
New Zealand.
Australian.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, you just pissed off a huge. Oh, my Lord. Oh, the faux
Wait,
pas. Oh, you need to edit that
Isn't
out
that-
unless you want
isn't
death
that-
threats.
isn't that one country?
Oh, my Lord. Oh, no, but yeah, they are brilliant.
What do you mean? What do you mean? Sorry, time out. What do
Brilliant
you mean?
New Zealanders, and we highly respect them and New Zealand.
What do you mean
Thank
death
very
threats?
much.
There's never been a death threat sent out of New Zealand. What are you talking about? Like,
And you may have just started that. You may have
okay,
just started
well,
that
you
trend.
know,
That
hit
could
me
be-
with your best death threat. If people are listening
Ooh.
to this in New Zealand, I'll be only like honored and proud. So, but yeah, so
to get a death threat from a New Zealander, an
Exactly.
authentic death threat. Can it be like stamped by the government? You know,
what a privilege! If the prime minister could sign it, that would be very much appreciated.
Yeah.
But yeah, so
Yeah,
I
great.
mean, yeah, or like Tim Minchin, he's Australian, or you know,
Yes.
like David O'Doherty, or like anyone who's doing kind of musical stuff. I think it's always good because it's kind of fresh. It's just different. And then if we talk about more of this like clowning and miming and incorporating like props and stuff like the umbilical
Yeah.
brothers and you know or like Randy the puppet Randy Feltface and
Randy Feltface.
yeah.
Yes.
So, but that's why I appreciate all these different styles of comedy because I think they just like open your mind to the possibilities.
Yeah.
So-
yeah. But what I'm saying, especially in the beginning, I would really recommend people to try different styles, even if you're not that great a comedian. But I mean, if you have the right scene, if you have a club that allows you to experiment on stage and is not going to kick you off or ban you from going on stage, then really I think it's just great to try out different styles, even if just to find out if it's not your style, and to try styles once in a while. You know, again, in future that maybe you tried before, but maybe you didn't have the skill at the time, and then give it a shot later on and see if maybe you've gotten better, that maybe you can use that sort of style, sort of thing.
Yeah, bring that puppet, take that guitar, write that poem, you know, like
Yeah.
play that character. Just try to write a few one-liners, whatever. So what would you
Exactly. Just never a keytar.
never no,
Just
just
never
don't
a
do
guitar.
that. Yeah, or ukulele. Don't do ukulele. That's bottom feeding comedy.
So cliche.
It's just like,
Especially if you're a girl, especially if you're
Yeah.
a petite girl or a big guy. If you're a big guy or a petite girl, no,
don't do ukulele. No,
all
no,
right?
forbidden. Don't be
No.
that. Don't, and especially like that means like I cannot really play the guitar, but I can like, you know, hit three like strings in a like repeatedly.
Yeah.
Like just don't do that. But yeah, so to wrap it up, then how would you say your kind of style has changed and progressed, or has it from the early days? Because I haven't seen you live now. It's been like almost 3 years, like 2.5 years at least, right? I haven't seen you perform live, but I have seen you like regularly since 2015 or something, 2016, up until 2022, I guess. And the last thing I saw you, one of the last things like I saw you was that big finale of the competition and everything. And I would say, in my mind, like you've changed in quality, like you've gotten better, and you've had your like ups and downs when you perform. More or less it would kind of, you know, fluctuate.
Yeah.
But of course, like you've gotten better on stage and like more comfortable with your material and with the audience and everything. But I would argue that your style has been and has stayed absolutely the same from day one. But I don't know, maybe something has changed in the last few years. What would you say?
No, I think, I agree with you. I think I generally have my style. I'm a storyteller. I'm a raconteur. You know, that's generally what I do. But one thing I've actually been trying to do is, like, I've always had that story style, like, you know, the person at the party who tells a story, makes it animated. You know, as you said, kind of like maybe I should try this clowning school because maybe it would not lift my game in the sense of, I think it might actually, I think I've already got a bit of it. I think I already have a little bit of that clowning style to me, and it might help me like polish it and refine it a little better, or make it more raw and more gut-laughingly hilarious or whatever. But the point is that, you know, I think I'm animated. I do inflections, eyebrow, facial gestures, hand gestures, things like that. I strut the stage, you know, I put in a bit of pizzazz, darling. But the thing is that I think, yeah, that's kind of gotten better, hopefully. But I think I'm trying to do more everyday stuff. Like, rather than just one long story, I have been trying to throw in quips and trying to kind of, and I think that's where I have gotten a little bit better, like adding little flavors in there, like little bits in the story that makes it a bit more haha on a regular basis. I think that's where I've improved. But I want to do other bits like outside, and I've been trying to do more themes, like, you know, a whole series of different stuff, shorter stuff to do with, for example, technology, or things to do about, death, for example, if that's a thing. You know, I want to play. I've always liked themes. That's why I grew up not watching short stand-up bits, but like watching long specials. So as I've mentioned before in previous episodes, when I did my first stand-up bit, I tried to find a theme because I thought that's what you had to do. And I like the idea of themes. I liked having, like, you know, something that, or a theme that evolves and changes. So that's what I'm kind of more looking towards now. I want to talk about things that are important, maybe some political stuff. And if I incorporate stories in there, yeah, but I want to go more in that direction, and it's something I'm trying out a bit more.
So it's
rather
more
than just focusing on one
observational, right? You're like shifting from like telling stories
stuff,
to kind of making observations on certain topics.
Yeah, and I want to do that, but then pepper those into my stories as well. So I kind of would like to end up with a bit of a mix. So it's like you're making observations, and then it's like, I've got a story about that. And then you go into a story, and within that, you have other peppered, you know, flavors of observations and this and that, you know, to give it a bit more of a style, like mixing the right ingredients. And then that could be like the finale of it. So that's what I would like to work towards, is something like that.
Okay, yeah, interesting.
That's what I'm working towards.
No, and it's good that, like, you're not, it's... on one hand, maybe it's like a natural evolution kind of thing, you know, but on the other hand, you're also making a conscious decision to try, like, shift your style a bit and, like, do a different, you know, type of jokes and format, which is also good, because I think, like, sometimes it happens naturally, but sometimes, you know, things need a push and you have to, like, just discipline and manage yourself into doing something. And I think that's also a good way to approach it. So, yeah, I think we can wrap it up. In the comments, you can always, as always, like, reach out to us, share what is your favorite style of comedy, tell us what you think about our styles, if you've seen us live or one of our, like, social media accounts or something, you followed maybe some of the clips that we post, and let us know kind of if you're a comedian, maybe what style of comedy you're doing or you would love to be doing. Thank you so much for listening. I've been Igor Monday.
And I've been David Munoz.
Till next time. Goodbye.
Ciao.